Oi, what's that? It's a wild pterodactyl. No, it's not. It's the Expanded Understanding podcast. I'm Zach. Good to meet you guys. Oh, wait. We already know each other. But nevertheless, if this is your first time here, please like, subscribe, share the video. Do the things to make sure you can come back again to hear more weird pterodactyl noises, because everyone needs that in their life. I know that the more weird pterodactyl noises that I include in my life, the better my life gets. That's a thing that I've learned about my life. It's a very important lesson. Loud pterodactyl noises will help you live a better life. Let's see. Willow, Jasmine, Kevin, Don, Jen. Hi, everyone. Good to see you this evening. Thanks for being here for my weird pterodactyl noises and the strangeness that is me pretending to be a human. I hope you are all enjoying pretending to be a human as well. It can be quite enjoyable if we learn the fun human tricks to do. Kevin knows one of the fun human tricks that I like to do. Sound engineering, making music, other stuff to do with sound and stuff. The music that you heard coming in here, if you didn't already know that, that's music that I made. And I'm definitely sourcing a bunch of samples from other people in the community. There's like a random person that I worked with like coaching at one point in time. So she's kind of a part of our extended community. That, well, she's actually got a really great story. But nevertheless, she has apparently has a really good voice too. Like she posted a thing on Facebook like a year ago that she like randomly put a comment on today, and I had forgot that I had ever even heard it. But now hearing it this time, I was immediately like, you mind if I sample your voice here? Use that in some music. So yeah, pretty psyched on the music thing. Real psyched on the dancing thing lately. Actually, I am gonna play a video of a friend that well, we come from an older community, which of dancers, primarily what you would call like, well, the term got coined of flow artists as we started to incorporate more things. But nevertheless, the idea behind it is very much so, well, it's a lot of it. It's really just interpretive dancing, interpretive modern dance. A lot of it came out of like the mid-late 90s rave culture, where there was a very standard type of dancing that many people called liquid. That it kind of came out of a merging between that and a thing that comes from hip-hop culture, or really not even just hip-hop culture, beyond that as well, but it's a kind of dancing called pop. Both of these kinds of dancing are heavily incorporated inside of modern dance that's done generally to electronic dance music. And I'm not talking about like the people that, you're just like kind of shaking your hips around or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who take it very serious. If you haven't noticed about me, I don't like to do things halfway. I like to do them all of the way. Like as much, I imagine something impossible and then I try to hit it. Usually it doesn't work out, but we get like way farther than I would have gotten if I would have just like set a goal for myself. And very much so, that's I think that's a good way to operate. Really do. I think it's very helpful. So I'm gonna bring this video on, and do I want to play the music? I don't know if I want to play the music. I kind of want to play the music. I kind of don't know whether my channel will get fucked. I'm no music. No music. Intuition is not entirely sure about that, so we're gonna have to chill out on that. And also, Facebook Messenger, or really just Facebook stuff, and its integration with StreamYard, real weird. Not that good. So, nevertheless, I don't really even know why I'm showing you guys this video. I really just love this stuff, and I figured it's worthwhile to talk about like stuff that we love. This guy might be the best in the world at doing kind of like, well, it's a combination of liquid, digits, pop, tutting, boogaloo, all kinds of other things. As you can see, basically the idea of it is that you are, can you see what the idea of is from Tommy's stuff? This guy, well, his name's Tommy. The name he goes by in dancing is Tommy von Flowington III. It's pretty funny. Not a normal dance name. Nevertheless, you see like what he's doing with his hands there. That is called tutting. I've been really playing around with a lot of tutting today. It's one of the styles that I haven't spent nearly as much time incorporating into my dance. And so I've definitely been working on it a lot recently. And I think it's very important that we find stuff that we're super psyched on and try to progress ourselves with it. It's such okay. So like you're gonna go through your life and you're gonna progress as an individual. That is a fucking given, 100%. But if you include a lot of things in your life where you're really like pushing yourself to do something that really just like you're passionate, doing it for fun, that will become the vehicle for a whole lot of your progression. This will save you from a whole lot of the hijinks that exist inside of the standard spiritual awakening, getting to know myself, learning self love kind of stuff. So, like, a lot of the reasons why that looks so shadowy a lot of the time is because basically you could say that the universe is kind of and I'm tentative with the verbiage here, forcing the lesson on us. And it's not a force, it's providing the opportunity for the lesson because we're not providing that opportunity for ourselves to some kind of vehicle that is more enjoyable, like something that you're passionate about. A lot of people got a lot of passions, but a lot of people like to also fill their time. A lot of people waste a lot of fucking time, and that's something I'm going to spend some time talking about tonight too. Is really just like the efficiency of your life, these kinds of things. Like we waste a lot of time, man. I was like running this concept on even just like my own little like, the people that live around me right now, and just like contemplating what if we were all aligned towards one, like the same goal, right? And like this thing that he does right here is just so ridiculous. Okay, so that spinning thing is like I like watched this video in slow mo and even like mapped out the points of where his arms and legs were, and in that entire motion there's like maybe 3 inches of imperfection. I mean, we talk about perfection as being like a pipe dream. That was about as close as people get, my friends. Like, very complex what he's doing. Most people lack the bodily awareness to even be able to do it, let alone the mechanics and the muscle memory to do those kinds of moves. But moreover, to actually do it where you're hitting on all of the points that you're supposed to. If I was playing the music, it's also very well timed musicality wise with what's going on. So like having all of that come together, I mean, this is it's a fucking unicorn popping up right in front of you. It's like literally that rare. It's like impossible, Nevertheless, this is some of the kind of stuff that we're actually very capable of accomplishing if we just keep on putting ourselves towards something. When I first ever met Tommy, for instance, was like, I don't even remember, man, like 2007 or 8 or something like that. He had been dancing for a couple years. You could tell from like, what he was doing at that point in time, like this guy's going to be tremendous, you know? And that was accurate in the long run. He is indeed quite tremendous. Can I, this is my bad. I do not know what I'm clicking on. I'm literally just trying to see if I can make it a bigger size, and I can't. So that was all wasted effort. Thank you for joining me on that wasted time. Oh no. Hold up. That's not enough notes. I won't get copyright struck for that. It's not enough notes. All right. So nevertheless, this kind of dancing, basically, well, really, actually, I show this because Tommy is a really good example of, in many ways, like what I would like to be. Tommy, so like I met Tommy a long time ago. He was new to dancing, right? He's not super new. He'd been doing it for like a year or whatever. He was still learning a lot of concepts. He was very serious about it. You could tell from what he already had that he was going to be very, very, very good if he stuck to it. And he has stuck to it for a really long time. He hasn't been doing a lot of dancing over, say, the last like 6 months or so, at least that he's been posting or anything. But up until that point, over that entire period, from like 2007, 8, 9, something like that, definitely by 2010, he's been practicing like all the time, learning concepts, developing concepts, working on precision, recording videos just like this one so that he can watch them back and see everything that he's doing wrong, how he can get better, really using it as a vehicle for, well, basically expanding himself, right? And there's a lot of ways to do this. It is not the only vehicle even Tommy used. Not the only vehicle. No one really uses one vehicle. But if we create these vehicles into our life, then we don't end up in situations where we had no vehicles, and then we basically get them thrust upon us. I'm not saying that by having vehicles in your life, you never have to deal with anything you don't want to deal with, but I am saying that you will have to deal with less things that you don't want to deal with. And while they might seem like they are not intimately connected, I Well, I mean, try it out. If you really want to test it, try it out. And you will see that there is actually some intimate connection to it. You will have less problematic situations that you need to deal with if you purposely create the problems for yourself by way of following some type of passion-driven vehicle and using that to create, like, that's what your mind is focused on. My mind isn't focused on, like, whatever, some standard life problem. I'll allow you to abstract yourself. Instead, mine's focused on like figuring out exactly where my elbows are supposed to be when I'm doing some kind of move, right? Like, your mind projects troubles. I talk all the time about how your psyche is actually projecting your reality. Your mind projects troubles because, like, you actually want problems as a growth mechanism. But those problems don't have to be things that you really actually consider to be problems. They need to be like basically puzzles that you're solving. If those are puzzles that you're choosing to solve, you come to find that you don't project as many problems into your life. Whether there's all kinds of arguments that a person could make for why this is, ranging from the hyper mystical to things that are significantly more basic, like you're just not as interested in spending time on that because you have something you like more to spend time on. Even if you go to that simple level, it definitely functions based off of that. And so, nevertheless, by having these kinds of vehicles, be it dance, generating music, maybe it's art. I mean, it can even be things like raising your children or teaching other people about something, right? Like, it can really be anything, but then you create these little projects for yourself. You work on these projects. Those projects require you to engage what you could call like greater upper limits or perspective ceilings of yourself in order to obtain greater and greater mastery of the thing that you're pushing yourself along. Really, you're just seeking mastery. Like, you're not actually, it's not some specific thing you're supposed to get good at. You just want to be really good at something. And we feel like there's something that we're supposed to, but usually we've taken that concept from someone else because we really didn't know what we were supposed to be, and it seemed like they had a pretty good idea. So, we go ahead and try that one out. But that's not really the best way to do it. In my experience, the much better way to do it is to actually create these vehicles for yourself. So some of the ones that I use are definitely dance, sound engineering. These are big ones. Really like just logistical planning. I really like the logistics of things. I like to put together like teams of stuff and keep track of all the pieces and kind of play utility man in between all of those pieces and stuff. I really like to do that even. And that one's like a really good vehicle because it actually like gets stuff done too. That's like maybe so, a more standard person or some other person would say is important stuff. I certainly consider it to be important stuff, but I consider like spend some time dancing, spend some time with some music, spend some time hanging out with my friends, spending time petting my dog. Like, I consider a lot of things important. Everybody does, right? Like, it's just whatever you think is prioritized to do in your life. But if you don't already have some of these vehicles in your life, or, even if you do, consider adding some more. It really is a very nice way to navigate your life. And basically, where this sounds kind of like a weird piece of, we'll call it advice, create problems for yourself. But in order to really hear that the right way, it has to be heard from a mind that recognizes that it does want problems. It wants something to overcome. It wants a vehicle for its own change. And that comes by the way of some type of difference that it wants to resolve. And then we call that a problem. So, yeah, that's a good thing to do for sure. Sorry, checking out the comments here. Do. It's so nice to see like that, just like everybody that's here all the time like gets along so much. I really hope to see that expand into the future for sure. Like, this is a lot of the reasons why, well, a lot of the things I've been working on, not only like, I mean, the music things play into that. I've also been like, planning micro content, working on it in some capacities, not as much as I should have been, in my personal opinion. These kinds of things, because like, I don't know, I just really think this is actually a really good space. And the way that you guys interface with each other is such a substantiation of that. There really is like a sense of care between all of you. And I want you to know that like I share that same thing. Like, I I literally like think about all the people that come in here like every day, literally like trying to think from your perspective of like from what I've seen of their operation, what are the kinds of things that they like, what do they want to do, what are they trying to accomplish, where are they at, what would be beneficial for them or just enjoyable or exciting for them. And so, I really like we're all in this together. And like I really do like appreciate you guys being here, the way that you operate all this. It's really so cool. Like, I mean, if I had no one in here and I had been doing this for like 59 episodes or whatever it's been now, like would I keep doing it? Like I don't know, like I like to think that I would, but at the same time, like if I was recording videos of myself, that would I record videos of myself to never have anyone watch them? Like I don't know, maybe not. But I really like doing this. But there has to be, it has to be like doing something. I mean, I guess I could just keep doing it even if no one watched it, but it seems weird. I'm real about efficiency. Like I said, I will talk about that at some point in time. But you know, when like it doesn't feel like a thing that you're doing is really having like the kind of exact effect that you want, you definitely need to be, you need to be running that efficiency equation of like, is this worth my time outlay? And what I'm saying is a long form way of saying you guys solve the equation of is it worth the time outlay with the way that you interact with each other. Like Willow, the way that you help out, that's so much. The fact that people like Jen, Kala, Angela also want to have shows on here. They also want to create content for the space. They care about what's going on. I really like, it means so much to me, you know. Uh, yeah, pretending to be a human being, that's really what we are, right? Like, I mean, if we believe in like higher self or that we're some, one in the all in the one, or something down that line, then really this is just a game of pretend that we got going on here. Uh, Kevin says that sound engineering is a hack into the all. You can start a track as one person and come out the other side a completely different one. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, even just like the way that music is capable of changing your energy. Like if you're spending time listening to a lot of even just like samples, or you're making a song that's like very dark and heavy, you're just like kind of feeding back and like just building that kind of like heavy feeling inside of yourself too. It really ends up becoming like kind of a projection of what you were trying to express in the beginning, but in the process of like working on that can really kind of like build that. It's just like sound is such a powerful vehicle. It's really just crazy. Um, Dance moves and chi energy work, qigong dancing. Yeah, I've definitely incorporated some of that. There was actually a guy that came from the same community that Tommy person I showed you that I was referring to meeting him in. He went by a dance name HG Itch, and he very much so. We were about like creating unique styles that really kind of channeled who we were as a person. And as he had grown up before he got into dancing, he was really into martial arts a lot. And so his style really like kind of took the turn of incorporating a whole lot of like what he had learned through martial arts kata, and very much so like movement of energy, tai chi, qigong, these kinds of things, and started incorporating the movements that they have inside of their stuff into basically the way that he was dancing. And that very much so like moved through the community in certain ways, but very much so also like I mean like dance and kind of the culture that anybody that would be into this kind of dancing at the level of the guys that I'm talking about, they come from a place where like they were very much so experiencing very life-changing events, right? And then not like, oh my god, their mom died, not that kind of life-changing event, like like a night that's like the perfect night, and there's a bunch of people and you're dancing, the music's great, it sounds nice, there's no trouble going on, there's the right people, it's got the great vibe, it's just like everything's perfect in that moment. You're so fucking immersed in that moment, like you're so immersed in it that it feels like time just moves by like a fucking glacier. Like you feel like you're just there for like 100 fucking hours, and that's great. Like that's exactly what you wanted to happen. So it's a good thing. Usually I dance my prayers. Yeah, I mean, dance has been used as a format of basically obtaining ecstasis or a vehicle of apotheosis, a search for becoming God, basically, or getting to know God. Prayer is contact with God, so functionally a format of apotheosis in a certain way, low level apotheosis mechanism. And dance, especially with like, you have, how am I forgetting their name? The guys who spin in circles a lot. So for some reason, I can't remember their name at the moment. That's really ridiculous. Wow. It'll pop to me suddenly, and I'll be like, that. Maybe somebody knows it, and you can say, the guys that spin in circles. Um, yeah. Playing this broadcast for more than one person, caregiving plus. Yeah, that's that's pretty cool of you. I appreciate you still coming in here and being interested in being part of the community while you're like working your job and stuff. That's really, really cool. So I appreciate everybody for being here and everything that you guys do for yourself, for everybody else. So I guess since I don't have anything more to say about that, I could talk about efficiency for a second. Like, not only just efficiency, but our willingness to just like allow ourselves to basically do stuff that doesn't actually lead us towards sculpting ourselves in another way. And I think part of the reason that we do this is because we look at the engagement with self as work. We're going to do some self work, some shadow work. I'm doing the light work. Like, you're talking all this kind of stuff. That work thing, Sufi. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. Sufis are the guys that spin in circles with dancing. And, but we look at these things as a lot of various different kinds of work. Because we look at it as work, again, it becomes like, I mean, how do you think about going to work, right? Are you like, you wake up in the morning, pop out of bed, and you're like, hell yeah, I get to go to work. Like, not so much, right? So we don't actually err towards doing more of these things. But if we generate these passion-driven vehicles for self-exploration, then oftentimes we do find ourselves engaging with ourselves significantly more often and spending less time doing stuff that's not really benefiting us in that same capacity, because we start to normalize this concept of that, like, you're getting more out of the experience, right? Like, you're not only having a good time, you're learning something, you're seeing parts of yourself, you're engaging yourself, you're seeing the like growth over time as a byproduct of that engagement with yourself. And you're starting to see that, like, watching this movie really doesn't like give me the same thing that honing this skill and working on like creating a new thing with that skill or practicing it, like that gives me a different thing, right? And when you have these impassion driven situations, oftentimes you will find that you err towards doing those instead of doing other things that are, for lack of a better word, less efficient. Right, because they're not engaging you on as many levels. That's why they're less efficient. They're not generating as much, basically bliss, but really just like coherence inside of you. This empowering energy that feels like I'm spending my time well, right? So if we create these ways, if we engage with our passions, we make a purpose to make time for that. And if you don't have one right now, just like pick something that you think's cool and start getting good at it. You'll get better. You'll get better than you think that you're going to be, a lot faster than you think you're going to get there. If you really just like, all right, well, I'm going to start learning this thing. What's it take to start in kindergarten, basically? When I started dancing, I didn't start out like immediately doing some kind of craziness. Like, I started out with the same super easy stuff to this day, I tell everybody that I would ever teach to dance to start out with the same stuff that I started out with. In fact, I'm a huge proponent of basically going slower on the complexity and slower on all of the movements to make sure that you have everything really refined, and that, like, you really, really know it. Really take the time to get to know it, rather than try to like blow past it to get to like some kind of crazy move that you saw on TV or whatever the case may be. So we find ourselves really like we're looking for like a break, right? But so there becomes two questions, like, how do we basically get it so that we don't need a break? And on the flip side of that, the question is, why do we need a break from just living our life, right? Well, as far as my exploration of it, why do we need a break is because the shit that we're doing most of the time isn't actually really something we want to be doing. So we want to stop from doing that to either do something better, which would either be nothing or something that felt good, right? That was what we wanted to do. So we want that break to go out and have that relief or stop and have that relief, whatever the case is, right? If we format these kinds of passionate modalities, you find a whole lot less wait looking for a break inside of your life, you know? You find a lot less need to take a break for that, like to, oh, I gotta stop for a moment and like center myself and balance. And like really what you're saying is like I gotta get rid of some shitty energies inside of me. It's really like I kind of gotta overcome the fact that like I'm not wanting to do this right now. This comment from Don says, I speak only for myself at times, but you need people for strength in numbers, and perhaps I need to balance my solo with deep discussion with your brand of wit and intelligence too, Zach. I mean, I think it's very beneficial to have both the out and in mechanisms, or however you want to look at that. Whatever the opposing forces are, to basically engage both of them. Like, I think it's trying to be omni, basically, in everything, right? Like, is the introvert or the extrovert better? Neither. They both have a whole bunch of value to them, and the omnivert is really the most effective one in the long run. When they're outside themselves interacting with other people, it goes great. And when they're inside themselves interacting with themselves, it goes great. And so it's going great all the time, rather than like as long as they can stay in their good place, When our security is based around being able to stay in the same place, I argue that we might not actually be secure. If an overwhelming force descends upon us and we cannot move, then we are not safe. So safety is created by being able to stand still, but also being able to be agile. So being able to go slow and also go fast, right? To stay and to move. You can't really guarantee your security without functionally both of those. Because, I mean, even if you think you're the strongest thing in the universe or whatever, maybe that's just a thing that you think, right? Like, we don't know. You don't know all the things in the universe. So it would be beneficial to be able to move, right? Like being rooted into the ground completely, not so much, right? Argument can be made that what we often talk about is like ascended versions of ourselves, our higher self, whatever. We're talking about like an ethereal format of ourselves, a spiritual body, as we like to call it a lot of times. This thing can move even more than us, right? Like that means that we're going down a path of more movement, not less movement. The higher format of ourselves is not conceptualized inside the minds of the standard individual as a tree or a rock or something else that is a non-motive being. It's perceived as a spirit that can like teleport, move between dimensions, transmit itself at faster than light speeds, these kinds of things. It's more malleable than we are. We're more malleable than a rock or a tree. We're able to walk around, you know what I mean? So, like, we've moved already from that state of it basically just being a rock or a bunch of elements in the same place. We now are able to actually be self-motive. And so that already shows us that the vector is heading towards more motive force, right? Whereas Don says here, perhaps it is faster vibration. Perhaps at a slow vibration, it was fine to like not move. Or really, does the tree not move actually? Or does it move by a different mechanic and that mechanic takes too long for us to really notice? I postulated this to a person, I don't know, a week ago or whatever. The idea that a tree does actually move, because a tree is always basically like regrowing formats of itself. We see that through its root system, through the mycelial networks, things like this. It's transmitting data really all throughout a very large area, and oftentimes there is kind of like a mother tree in the area that we could say that all of these things are actually an expression of this. Perceive, if you will, that one of these is at an edge of a forest, right? So on the edge of this ring, this new growth that comes up on that edge, everything out there is actually like whatever the main tree is moving farther out away from itself. So technically it is kind of walking around, right? But it walks around by, dropping pine cones 10 feet away and then a new tree grows, and that one grows up to be bigger, and then it drops 10 feet away in the same direction, another pine cone, when it's fucking 30 years later, and one more step is taken. We don't really see that as movement, but perhaps a tree is moving. It's moving at a very slow rate, and we move at a slightly faster one, and there are other ones that move slightly faster yet, and maybe you just keep on doing that for a very long time. The point is that it seems that while we are very eager to find our security inside of a Saturnine structure, something that is firm, solid, is boxed in. It says exactly what everything is going to be, how to manage it. It has everything compartmentalized. Everything is all in order. That we see this box and we think that that gives us security, but perhaps that box does not give us security because it is not actually malleable. And so this, I think, is the primary reason why we see ourselves basically, we see all these kinds of expansion that lead to basically the idea of getting outside of the box. Even in the corporate domain, they were talking about, think outside the box, right? Inside of esoteric schools, they're talking about square and the circle and the square, all these kinds of things, So the real point is that we are leaning on this idea of structure and slowness because we are not actually that fast, I think, because we aren't really actually that far away from a tree or a rock. There's a long way to go from here, and we are vectored in that direction, and the primary modality by which we are growing into that is really by becoming more malleable, more accepting, right? We see ourselves as being able to have now these past life experiences and projections into the future. That kind of says that your experience is getting faster or wider, right? Like it's able to run over farther into the past and back at the same speed, and it's kind of always doing that. And so there's all kinds of reasons why we could see that really actually we're trying to be more malleable. Right? And even if we aren't just trying to be more malleable, I would argue that the other half of the equation and the reason why the Saturnine structure doesn't really work is because we need to balance it with the ability to be malleable. And when we're not doing that, then we are too structured. And that's where the problems come in. You need to be this thing, you need to be that thing, racism, classism, segregation, inequality, etc. You're in the box, you're outside the box, right? These kinds of things all come from these Saturnine structures functionally. Quick drink. Anyways. So we want to be able to move. And we need to figure out how to get ourselves to be more capable to move in order to do that. How can we get ourselves to still feel comfortable without the same kind of structure bounding us into what we need to be? I think one of the primary ways that we can do this for ourselves is basically through the function of becoming okay with the fact that we don't know, right? Like a lot of people are very quick to basically place in an assumption or basically just they have an answer already for it, even though they don't really know the answer. That's just that's their belief. Because they're not really okay with just being I don't know. I really don't know. And the most likely postulation that I think everyone would agree with if they took their own experience and extrapolated it out to what most likely is going on for other people, really in the big scheme of things, the reality of the world that we live in is that nobody really has it figured out. There's not some kind of ruling class or archonic being above us that has it all figured out and everything, not on the level that we're operating. If we're talking about some power elites in the world, they might have it a little more figured out, but they don't have it all figured out. That's highly unlikely. When you start looking at what would that really mean, right? Would we ever have any technological developments at all if someone had it all figured out? No, right? We'd already be at the end of the line. Does not look like we're at the end of the line, folks. You can imagine a whole lot of things that we can't do yet. And as a byproduct of that, we can see that we're not at the end of the line. Nobody really has it completely figured out. So it's very beneficial in this position that we are, if you agree to that axiom, that belief, we'll call it, then to realize that we don't know. And that needs to be okay. Because it is okay that we don't know. You don't need to fucking know everything. You don't use everything in this moment in your life. You use whatever you need in this moment. Yeah. Kevin says recently he's been shown that he doesn't know shit. I think every time that we start to think that we know shit, we will get shown that we don't know shit. Because it's just like that. It's really beneficial to actually just accept it. Like I don't actually know some stuff, and that's totally fine. It actually, in many ways, makes life more enjoyable. When you can truly engage with other people, and it doesn't matter who you engage with, you don't even know the person, whatever like preconceived notions you have about them, you choose to put them aside because there's the possibility that this person is going to introduce you to like the next great thing, or they're going to completely revolutionize your life because you don't know what they know, and you don't know everything. So you're willing to like give it a shot that it could pop up out of nowhere. You find you have a lot better engagements with other people when there really is like a possibility that they could have a big impact on your life. People want to have an impact on other people's life. Everybody's like just like you, right? Like in a certain way they want some kind of like, maybe not all the way to legacy, but they would like to be remembered as a good person. What does that mean? In a certain way, on just like a low end moral level, keep it kind of vague. That means that they want to be they want to be a good person. And generally we equate that to also like helping other people out. Things like this. Like people want to help each other out. People want to be good people. They end up in situations where they make decisions that for one reason or another some other individual does not think was the good thing to do. And maybe they don't even think it was a good thing to do. Maybe they just did what they felt they had to do. They got themselves into a bad situation. I'm not saying like you release them from, all responsibility. Like quite the opposite. I tell people to take responsibility for everything, even stuff that's not their problem, simply because more responsibility equals more power. Like you have more places in your life where you can see that you could have your own personal effect on enhancing your life. If I wanted to make the world a better place, I'd do this thing. If I was doing that thing would get better. And I'm taking responsibility for the fact that I'm not doing that, rather than like sitting around going, oh, well, like, oh, my life isn't really that great. Like, oh, my life could be better and everything. The world really ought to be a better place and everything. But like, are you really putting the time towards making it a better place? Like, really? You'll find a lot of your time you're not doing that. you know. Shit, many hours a day is sleeping, you know what I mean? And you could say that, like, I think sleeping is very beneficial, probably even more so than the next guy, because I'm huge into dream analysis. But sleeping doesn't directly help you get things done in physical reality. I think we can all agree on that. And, if you don't, like, well, how many times have you, like, gone and dug a hole while you were asleep? Never. How many times have you driven your car while you're asleep? Well, hopefully not too many. And if you did, you passed out in the middle of doing it. You didn't like go from your sleep and be like, oh yeah, well I also need to run by the store while I'm sleeping, right? So like that's getting stuff done somewhere else, which does incorporate itself here, definitely. And that has some kind of effect, no doubt. But it's, the point is that we do spend time doing things that aren't actually helping us here. Okay? And the more that we focus on doing that, the more that we enhance the efficiency of the modalities by doing that, the better we end up making our life a better place. When our life is a better place, we end up being a more enjoyable, more functional, more capable, more loving, more caring person to be around. And other people's lives get enhanced because of that. They see a permission slip, a possibility of themselves to also be something else. Without you, like, coming to them, trying to help them or anything, you just literally just be a good person for yourself. And then be who that person is with other people. And they will see through you that there is definitely the opportunity to be more than they were before. And they will get functionally guidance from that. They don't really actually, like, necessarily need to be told, well, you need to do A and B if you want to get C. Most people are actually capable of figuring that shit out for themselves. If you tell them very directly, you need to do A and B to get C, maybe you just stole the opportunity for them to actually learn what they need to do. Right? So now, like this time, it was just A plus B equals C. But now, since you solved for that for them, now they're in a position where the next equation looks a lot more difficult. And they don't really even know how to do the easy ones yet because you literally just told them the answer. So many times in situations like that, while we can think we're like giving some type of beneficial guidance or we're like helping the person out, telling people the answer to the question on the test does not actually help them learn the subject. Usually, right? If it's some type of memory test or some shit like that, no, maybe they choose to commit that to memory right at the moment that you tell them, and then sure, you got yourself an argument. But if it's not about a memory test, it's about their ability to basically do a task. And instead of having to do the task, you just provided them with the result of doing the task, then they had not gone through the process of learning how to do the task. And so that has technically been taken from them. They took it from themselves because they chose to just accept the result that they wanted without doing what it took to get it. But if you were looking at what also you being the person that gave them that answer in the situation, or gave them that result in the situation, you also provided the opportunity for them to basically bypass themselves. You could have not presented that. You could have come to them and basically said, you know, help them down the path of questioning what the way that learning process goes. If you really know how to do it, remember back to how you learned how to do it and simply ask them the same questions that you asked yourself. You know, if you do this, then they actually go down a path where they're actually learning how to learn that thing rather than just having an answer that they can memorize. The fucking school system that we have in this day and age, which is completely made to train factory workers, is very much so, it's big at pushing, oh, we'll just memorize it and then we'll give you an A and you can go on. But, like, that ain't teaching you shit, really. Like, it really isn't really teaching you that much. Maybe, like, the math out of you get some. There's a couple things from science for sure, but most of it's really about being able to actually apply this shit. Applications is what's much more important than theoretics when it comes to the physical dimension. So, Aaron has gotten here now. I don't know what he was doing, but he's here now, and he's got things happening. He's pointing at things. What are these things?
Sunset.
There's a sunset and people standing around.
And
He's
people
at
all
the
silhouetted.
Edmonds waterfront.
Mm-hmm. There's the ferry. This is actually the waterfront that shows up in the background when I'm at my parents' place. Just
Oh, I
down at the
see.
water.
I
Like
see.
everybody's all silhouetted out. Looks like a picture-perfect photo.
I can actually see color in almost all the people. The girl on the back, like I'm looking at a girl and I know she's wearing a red shirt. I know the girl next to her has a orange, looks like kind of a dress on, white shirt next to that guy. Like I can see all the colors even.
Oh, nice. Good job, Samsung.
Good job,
High quality
Samsung.
phone.
High five.
High
This
five.
podcast is unintentionally sponsored by Samsung because we name drop them without requiring them to give us lots of money for that.
See, look at all the natural Fibonacci stuff and angles or whatever just feels good or looks good. Like
What
the
the
sun
hell's
getting
a
the reflection off the
Fibonacci?
ferry.
Is that some
I
kind
don't
of
know.
racist term?
Nowadays it might be. I don't know. I'll check with Antifa. Get back to you.
You know, you're a real Fibonacci. So, yeah. That's a cool looking place. The water looks nice.
It is nice. People are actually out here, man. People are like putting their feet in the water and at the
There's
beach.
people
It's
out
really
there?
nice today.
Where are the
Yeah.
people?
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to being totally abandoned the last 2 months, 3 months.
Have you considered starting to aggressively chanting Black Lives Matter?
Nope. Hadn't even crossed my mind, actually. Maybe on the list of things I will never do.
I was just checking.
Yeah.
It's always good to check. Cool. So this is the Edmonds waterfront. It's not the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It has a lot less graffiti, but it does have a ferry. So check that out.
Yeah. Nice background view.
I
There's
watched
a really nice video. Like if somebody popped onto this just to watch the scene in the background, and then we can just talk, I guess. Like a radio show. A nice living camera footage.
Sure. Yeah.
Keep going.
There was a video was released today about an independent journalist that spent like 2 days living down in Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and he only spent 2 days down there because he like literally got chased out of there at night by guys because he was fucking filming this Raz Simone guy from like
Mm.
40 yards away. And like, I mean, like the video evidence that he had, you can tell that like this guy sees, okay, so they've been like monitoring social media and they saw this other guy live streaming that had him filming in the frame, right? And the guy totally like recognizes himself in the frame, turns around, like looks right at the camera, then starts like talking to other people, right? He
Mm-hmm.
eventually ends up getting like cased and then approached by this guy who basically just like came up and told him right away, like, you're gonna have to give me your phone or I'm gonna knock you the fuck out, right?
Yeah,
And
self-policing.
do you call that self-policing? Is that what you call that?
Yeah, you're policing the situation. You will get what you want. If there's going to be violence, you defend yourself, or you don't, and then the matter is solved. That's self-policing
Yeah.
to an extent in that little situation. We're not talking about the whole context of self-policing, but
Yeah, so nevertheless,
why would
it went
yeah.
forward with him, effectively literally getting chased out of Chaz by several guys trying to get his phone. He wasn't doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, the two guys and a girl ended up chasing him out. The girl, as he was running by, was yelling at him that he needed to head to the medical tent for interrogation.
Hmm.
And so he ran out of this place, still getting chased by some people who like, he was like screaming for help and shit. And I guess they ended up like catching up to him and they weren't like assaulting him, but they were stopping him from progressing forward. So he just started like yelling for help and shit and
Mm-hmm.
basically crumpled himself down to the ground and people started like poking out of apartments and whatnot and like seeing him out there. And so these people decided to like back off. And so he got up and started walking away again. The girl was still following him. And so he then ended up like, and as he's walking, then down the street in front of him, like facing straight towards him, this blue vehicle ends up, he had already, like, he was on the phone with the cops and shit. This blue
Mm-hmm.
vehicle ends up like pulling up on the side of the road and sits with its lights off. He gets like a bad feeling about it. He ducks off down into a construction zone, waits for the police to get there. And the police end up going and questioning the guy that was in the blue car, and his claim was that he was just doing security for someone, but he was like, in this area, like the businesses are like boarded up and like not operational at all right now, so like what's he
Oh, no
really doing this
kidding.
for?
No, I saw, that vehicle was in the video, wasn't it? I feel like
Huh.
there's one we passed by. There's a blue car and said something about security on the side. It was right out next to the U-Haul place or the self-storage. I mean, I don't know. We can scrub the video, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah, I have no idea.
if
Maybe,
that's the same guy, you might have seen him
perhaps.
on the camera.
I
Yeah.
have no idea. So nevertheless, yeah, I don't know. Sounds a little different with that. There's
Mm.
I I don't know.
Or
The
he's
the
wearing, sorry, he's
story
wearing a
and the
vest.
way
He's
that
wearing a vest that said security or something. But keep going.
the the story itself and like the way that the guy was telling it and such, not like it was like, oh my god, it's emotionally twisting me or something like that, but it sounded very, the recount of it was very just like an accurate, this is the events that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those events
Yeah, yeah.
ain't looking so good for some guys down there. You know what I mean? Like that's they all like accusing him of like basically of espionage, right? Like he's in there trying to steal their security plans or something.
Hmm. Whose
But
security plans?
there's apparently the people who are keeping security of this place. Oh, also the
Yeah, actually.
armed security force of that is the John Brown Gun Club, and the John Brown Gun Club is definitely directly linked with Antifa. So Antifa is definitely up in the leadership of this place,
Okay,
one
I was
hundred
just about
thousand
to say.
percent. Not a maybe.
Because I saw the Veritas video. Apparently, it was released June 4th. I saw it today. It's only a 4-minute video, but it's the Project Veritas, and they sent someone into the something city. I don't know if it's in California or something. One of the sects of Antifa, and he was working in there for 2 months before he retired from the sect. But he had all this undercover footage, and it's just 4 minutes. But I mean, clearly within these movements, I mean, it's what everybody would presume that at least there are some people intentionally trying to stir shit up, and there's, you get to see a lot of it. So, and what was interesting, I think it might have been either it was on video, or I remember seeing it the day before when I was on video chat with Angela, and just I did the same thing I did yesterday, which kind of walked through it, and I just happened to be on chat with her when I was down there. Um, But there was definitely guys, and this is one of the things with Antifa, they're wearing completely underneath a hat and their jackets, whatever, they're completely covered except for their eyes in black, black mask, black hood, black, which fits with the black mask now, but they're definitely more covered than everybody else.
Sure.
And even have glasses on or whatever. And there's a handful of them around. They seem to be intentionally engaged in certain conversations or certain activities. They're not just hanging out. So I don't know. It's interesting. So if they're there, they are right there.
Yeah, and really, honestly, like those ones aren't the ones that I even care about. Like it's really more that. Well, the other day when you brought the thing up, there's this guy that's like riling up the fucking white people and getting them to
Right.
getting people to march over to the West Precinct and shit. This kind of stuff. Like, now some of that can be legit. They are protesting. I get it, right? But there's a fine line between organizer and provocateur in this type of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't understand that, provocateurs purposely provoke people into actions that they otherwise would not have done. Oftentimes that includes inciting violence, destruction of property, civil disobedience, etc. Right? So this is the people inside of there that you would really need to worry about. It's not about what Antifa does. It's about what Antifa can get actual people to do. That's what you would be worried about Antifa being in there in any capacity for. Really, like, who's not anti-fascism? Let's get fucking real here. Everybody's anti-fascism. Like, that's ridiculous. Anti-fascism is not good for anybody but the, like, super ruling class. That's, like, what fascism is all about, right? So, like, no one really wants that. Okay, fascism shits on all kinds of people. It's just a reality of that social mechanism. So, like, no one really actually wants that. So everybody actually agrees with Antifa. We don't have a problem with the concept of anti-fascism. No one does.
Let me get a little
where
tidbit.
The problem lies is that anti-fascism? I mean, it kind of seems like they might actually be ran by the fascists.
Yeah, there's in the Veritas video, Project Veritas on YouTube is a channel. I think they've done other undercover stuff, and they have a video on there if you're interested in more of what potentially the inside of those meetings look like, where they're trying to teach average people how to do this thing. But as a side note, so if you can see in the water, they're little buoys. There's actually dozens of them. I don't know what shows up on the camera in the resolution, but there's buoys everywhere, and that's because this is an underwater diving park for like scuba divers. So they sunk ships and tons of stuff over decades here, or a long time. And those are different locations under the water to go and explore. So it's pretty cool.
All right, so...
Ooh, major echo. Hold on. There you go. That was cool, though. The echo was on time. It was barely delayed, and it just sounded like a chorus of your voice.
Yeah, it wasn't an echo. I put a chorus effect on the track.
Oh, well, there you go.
It was actually just a delay filter with a flanger. No, just kidding.
There we go. Okay, I was like, great. Identified it exactly. You ever take ferries, Zach?
What's that?
You ever ride ferries when you're over here?
I've ridden on some ferries, yeah, for sure.
I wonder, anybody in the chat ever not been on a ferry? Because I grew up with them, so they're really cool still. I still thoroughly enjoy riding over the water. Edmund has got them. Now you know.
All right. So, did you want to read that book some tonight, since you weren't able to read it last night?
Sure. You mean like on the show, like now, or like do a separate video?
I mean, you could do it on here and just like carry into it as well. I mean, I just talked for fucking an hour straight. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I caught some of those. Good. I'll listen to that tomorrow. I was really enjoying being down here. So thank you for carrying that. And after you doing the one you did the other night, I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be fine. Zach will get some more micro content and do his thing. It'll be great. I was coming a little late. Chill down by the water. Probably not tonight, but tomorrow. I think I'm gonna try doing tomorrow. I'm going to the Carlsons we're doing a solstice fire. So maybe do it up there in the afternoon or before that or whatever. But so the Ubuntu book reading, time. And then eventually the whole Aaron's ailment alignment thing, we'll do that too for sure. Maybe go get some glasses from Goodwill without lenses. It's the last thing I'm missing from your outfit. Don't make it happen. So, yeah. You want to call it night? It's pretty scene to call it on. Is that what you're saying?
So you're gonna go too, or you mean me?
If you're gonna go, then I'll go. Yeah, because I'm sitting out here at the water. It'd take an ordeal to turn this all around and actually set up. Oh, look, the ferry's leaving.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely go finish up that After Effects project file. We really need to get micro content going. And
Yeah.
I did just talk for like an hour. There was plenty of stuff of value in there. So,
Yeah, let's see if there's anything else, I guess, in the chat that would be just people chatting with each other, which is nice. Oh, well, yeah, Will's never been on a ferry. You'll have to come ride a ferry. Or we do some. Actually, if we go do anything over here, the Morgans and stuff, we can take ferries out to get to their place, and a bunch of people around here, so that works. Happy G. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Zach's birthday is tomorrow. It's 9:09 right now, and it's 36% battery on my phone, which is 9, and it's 119, and I saw 109, and then something else 9 viewers earlier. Lots of nines. Transmitting. Marriage of Spirit. I dig it. That's my finger on the lens. Okay. Also, I saw this whole space arrow thing. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool, that whole dynamic. And there's a lot of history between both those in different ways. It's really cool to have that.
thank you for being.
Go ahead.
Thank you for being the first to wish me happy birthday. You got that 3-hour lead on everybody else, Willow. So, good job on that. I appreciate you. I really appreciate.
And I read it right at 9:09 and 9.
So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna get out of here. The sun is setting, and as it would, this podcast is also setting. So thank you for joining us again tonight. Please like, subscribe to the channel, share, engage with the stuff down in the description, and yeah, lots more to come this way. We're back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Jen's here at 4 o'clock. Tomorrow is what day? Friday. It's my birthday, but I'll be here anyways because birthday, solar return. I'm born every day anew, and I suggest that you do the same. But
1 minute old.
Nevertheless, I love all of you. Thank you for being here. I feel like I've thanked you like 57 times already. I'm gonna go work on micro content, maybe play with some music, and probably work on weird leg tuts that I've been screwing around with all day, and
awesome.
That would be very fun.
Yo, yeah.
So
great. I saw those videos too earlier.
Nice.
Super good.
I will see you guys later. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah.